This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
At 9:18, let's talk about water. What is in our water? Theoretically, it should be just basically H2O. Pure, refreshing, healthy water. Life-sustaining water. But if you get your water from a municipal supply, there's probably some stuff added. Joining us now to talk about the issue of some stuff that's added to your water, especially here in the city of Binghamton, Paul Connett, who is with the Fluoride Action Network. And Paul Connett, I know we have spoken with you in the past about the issue of fluoride being added to public drinking water supplies. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Bob. It's nice to be with you again. Since we last talked, my wife and I moved to Exeter, New Hampshire, to live with my son and his wife and our delightful grandson. Anyway, we miss Binghamton, and it was delighted to be invited by the Ecotoxicology Committee of the Environmental Commission of Binghamton City Council, what a mouthful, to talk about fluoridation and why I think it's a bad idea and what a better program might look like.
So for people who aren't familiar with the work you've done, and the fact is that you have been outspoken on this issue for many years, just give our listeners a bit of a background, short background, before we talk specifically about Binghamton.
Yes, so I got involved in 1996. My wife twisted my arm to read some stuff she'd read and alarmed by. And I helped to found the Fluoride Action Network in 2000 and wrote a book on the subject, The Case Against Fluoride. My background is I was a professor of chemistry at St. Lawrence University. I specialized in environmental chemistry and toxicology. And I really didn't want the issue when she brought it up because I was knee-deep in fighting incinerators and working on waste management as well as teaching chemistry at a university. So I didn't want this issue, particularly because there's a stigma attached to those who oppose fluoridation. We're treated as flat earth society. But in fact, the science now that shows that consuming fluoride, especially for an infant, is dangerous and it's not very effective. So it's really an obsolete practice. But thank goodness there's a program in Scotland called Child Smile, which I think is the pointer for Binghamton. It addresses equity. It teaches toothbrushing in nursery schools. From the moment the child goes to school, the teachers teach them how to brush their teeth. They give them healthy snacks and drinks in school. They provide dental health and dietary advice to both the children and the parents. And that probably is the key, Bob, is to get the parents involved early. And each of the children gets an annual checkup and gets treatment if required, including fluoride varnish applications. So there really is no problem with fluoride if you apply it topically to the teeth, which is the sensible thing to do and what most countries in the world do. What doesn't make sense is to swallow this stuff, which is extremely toxic. Fluoride is extremely toxic. And even at these low concentrations that we use in drinking water, it can cause problems. And the key problem that's emerged is that the fluoride can cross the placenta. And from day one, the fetus is having to contend with this biochemically altering substance called fluoride.
Why is this, after so many decades, so controversial? And why do municipalities, in many cases, wind up being divided after you provide your perspective, your opinion about adding fluoride to the drinking water supply? It doesn't seem as though any real scientific consensus has emerged in many United States communities. I mean, this is something that's obviously, as you alluded to, it's been going on for a long, long time, and it doesn't seem that overall in many cities where this comes up that people can come to an agreement.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the real problem is that not many people have the time or the expertise to read the scientific literature. When the U.S. Public Health Service endorsed fluoridation in 1950, before any trials had been completed, that really set the issue into concrete. It was endorsed by the American Dental Association, American Public Health Association. It's promoted by the Center of Disease Control and every medical officer you can think of at the state and local level. And it's become an entrenched practice. There's an enormous amount of pride associated with it and a reluctance to admit that after 75 years, this is a bad practice and it's not doing what it was meant to do, reducing tooth decay to any significant extent. But at the same time, it is damaging the brain of developing children. Would you believe that we now have government-funded studies by the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, 2017, 2019, and 2020, which indicate that fluoride lowers the IQ of children. And these aren't lousy studies. These are high-class studies. You don't get millions of dollars of funding from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences unless your protocols are excellent. And they were excellent. They controlled for everything. And they showed that if a pregnant woman is exposed to fluoride, as measured by the fluoride levels in her urine, there is an association with a loss of IQ in the offspring. So they looked at about 300 mother-child pairs. They measured the fluoride levels in the mother's urine and then the IQ of the children at 4 and 8 to 12, and they found the higher the level of fluoride in the mother's urine, the lower the IQ in the offspring. And that is, and quite a significant extent. I mean, the average is about 5 IQ points. For the range of fluoride levels in mother's urine, we're talking about a loss of 5 IQ points, which is enough, incidentally, to halve the number of very bright children in your society and almost double the number of children that need special care because they're mentally limited. So that's an outrageous thing to do to a society, halve the number of very bright children and increase by nearly a half the number who need special care.
Tell me about your presentation last night here in Binghamton.
Well, there weren't many members there, but the response was very positive. One person in particular, I've forgotten his name, I think it was Gary. One person in particular said he was convinced and would like to pursue the Child Smile program for Binghamton on the issue of equity. The thing is, if you make this first step of improving the diet of the kids from the age of 3 onwards, you're going to reduce obesity, diabetes, and all kinds of other things. So it isn't just dental care. It is the whole health of the children. And another member of the committee said he came in thinking that he was going to not be persuaded that the fluoridation was a bad program, and didn't expect to be persuaded. But at the end, he said he was persuaded that we need to do something different, not put fluoride into the water.
How many U.S. communities have in recent years decided to stop adding fluoride to their drinking water supplies?
It varies because it's happening day by day. It's somewhere between 200 and 300 communities have stopped fluoridation in the last 10, 15 years and more. There's 2 things going on right now, Bob, that are very, very important. They pertain to the IQ studies. One is that the National Toxicology Program, NTP, that reviews toxicology for all the federal agencies, has been reviewing the neurotoxicology of fluoride. And they've been doing this for 8 years, and they've concluded that fluoride is a known neurotoxin. It does interfere with the development of teeth. So that's very important development in terms of reaching the scientific and health committee that's not trapped by fluoridation. And secondly, we've taken out a lawsuit This is the Fluoride Action Network. My son is the lawyer under TSCA. The TSCA is the Toxic Substance and Control Act. And under TSCA, citizens can petition the EPA to ban the specific use of a chemical. And so we took out a petition to say we should ban the deliberate addition of fluoride to the drinking water because of its potential to damage the brain development. And the trial took place June of 2020, and then this February, part 2 of the trial. The judge in 2020 wanted to see the NTP review before he made his ruling. And as I said, this trial ended, the second part ended in February. We are very optimistic that this federal judge, who's very bright, is following the science very carefully. In fact, I would go as far as to say that the best questions asked of any of the experts came from the judge. So clearly the judge understands the nuances that were discussed in court between their experts and our experts. And our experts included some of the authors of these 3 NIEHS studies, which are so important. The Bashash 2017, Green 2019, published in JAMA Pediatrics. That's the leading pediatrics journal in the world. And they published this key neurochemical study, parents being exposed, children's IQ being measured. And the third study actually deserves a few words if you've got the time. This is a study by Till and others, 2020. And what they compared was the IQ of children who, as babies, were bottle-fed in a fluoridated community and other children who were bottle-fed in a non-fluoridated community in Canada. This is a Canadian study. And they found that the children who were bottle-fed in the fluoridated communities had a 9 IQ loss, 9 IQ points on the nonverbal IQ scale. 9 IQ points lost just for bottle feeding in a fluoridated community compared to bottle feeding in a non-fluoridated community. 9 IQ points lost.
So it sounds to me that somebody, if they were reviewing the research you just described, could boil it down to just a few words that this study seemed to indicate that the addition of fluoride in drinking water was making our kids dumber.
Yes, it's a very clumsy way of delivering medicine, Bob, to put your medicine in the drinking water. It means you can't control the dose. You can't control who it goes to. No single dose fits everybody. People have different sensitivities. And once you put the medicine in the drinking water, you are forcing it on people that don't want it. You're violating their right to informed consent to medication. So I think it's always been a bad practice from an ethical point of view. But now we have the weight of science, which shows that it causes problems for the brain, for the thyroid gland, also for hip fractures are increased in the elderly. Not a good idea. And that normally what one does, especially if you're a toxicologist, you pursue the details to the fine degree in the studies that show harm. I've done that over 28 years. But at the same token, what about the benefits? How strong is the evidence that swallowing fluoride, as opposed to brushing it on your teeth, lowers tooth decay? And I'm amazed to say that the evidence is extremely weak. Even studies orchestrated by the National Institute of Dental Research indicate, when they looked at 39,000 children in the United States, this is the largest dental survey ever conducted in the United States, they could only find a grand difference of 0.6 of one tooth surface between those children who'd lived all their lives in a fluoridated community versus those children who lived all their lives in a non-fluoridated community. 0.6 of one tooth surface and we have 125 tooth surfaces in a child's mouth. 100.6 of one tooth surface. And for that, we are prepared to gamble about the possibility of losing 5 or 6 IQ points.
Doesn't sound smart to me. Paul Connett, thank you for joining us this morning. I have a sense we may speak with you again in the coming weeks about this issue.
Well, thank you, Bob, for having me, and it's delightful hearing your voice again after, about 5 or 6 years, I think.
It's been a while. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you again for your time. It's 9:34. We're live and local at News Radio, WNBF, Binghamton Now, on the air at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com. Back to the phones. Mike in Binghamton, you're on the air.
Thanks for taking my call, Bob. I have a question. I had a blurb on my cell phone yesterday, one of those news flashes, that we have a judge in the city of Binghamton who is not hearing cases. It didn't really say any more than that. I looked through the news to see if there was anything on that. But a judge who's paid well over $100,000, whose salary we're paying, is not hearing cases. I was wondering if any of your listeners had any information on that.
Oh, some of our listeners have information, but it's uncorroborated. I think it's up to the judge to call in. And he knows the number, 607-772-1290. I think because he is a public employee being paid for by the taxpayers, he is certainly entitled to call the program and tell us what's going on and, what the situation is. I've heard from a couple of listeners about what the situation may be, but it's not corroborated, and I would certainly welcome the judge to call in, or even preferably come in here to the station, because I have a few questions.
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, this is the information station, and I saw, let me see, I think Jim Emke did a story on Wednesday on binghamtonhomepage.com. Let me see what exactly how he worded it. See, I don't like, maybe I'm a traditionalist, Mike, but I don't like secrecy. I don't think secrecy is a good thing in government or in business. I think secrecy is just, nobody wins keeping secrets. So according to,
I agree with you.
Yeah, according to here's an update. Apparently, Jim Emke has updated. The judge now is assigned to Cortland Court. It says the city judge, Daniel Seiden, has been reassigned to hear cases in the city of Cortland. And this was published last night by Jim Emke at binghamtonhomepage.com. Oh, at least he apparently has been in contact with News 34. So I'm just reading this now for the first time. Daniel Seiden responded to News 34 explaining why he hasn't been hearing cases in Binghamton recently. The judge provided a letter showing that on July 23rd, Supreme Court Justice Eugene Fawnin, who is the administrative judge for the 6th Judicial District, assigned him to the court in Cortland on a full-time basis. In the interim, appointed court attorney referees have been handling Seiden's Binghamton caseload. Seiden, a Democrat who was first elected in 2014, is running for re-election in November. So there's an update that I had not seen. So kudos to Jim Emke, and also tip of the hat to Judge Seiden for releasing some information. Still, it doesn't explain what the root cause of the problem is. So it's one thing for Eugene Fawnin to assign him to court in Cortland on a full-time basis, but it still begs the question of why, how can I put this? why what happened earlier this week at City Hall happened. I can't be more specific at the moment, but trust me, people have been in touch with me, and I think it would be helpful if Judge Daniel Seiden, if he has a few minutes to call, or if he's not hearing cases in Cortland today, actually come into the studio to answer a few questions. Not just that he's been assigned to hear cases in Cortland, but obviously there must have been something that caused the Supreme Court Justice Eugene Fawnin to move him out of Binghamton to Cortland.
I knew I came to the right place. Thanks for that.
I wish
we'll be hearing more.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, as a public service, because I am a public servant, paid for by Town Square Media, I invite Daniel Seiden and Eugene Fawnin to either call the program or come in. I wouldn't mind if they came in together to discuss this and answer a few questions. Also, the office, I think it's the Office of Court Administration in Albany. I know Jim Emke's original story on Wednesday was greeted apparently with a snarky no comment when he contacted the people who oversee the any allegations involving judges across New York State. And I don't find that to be helpful. That agency is supposed to be serving the people of New York State. And a no comment in a case like that, I find to be incredibly unhelpful. And look, I have no idea really what all this is about. I could speculate. I don't have the details about what precipitated things in late July. I think it's time that Daniel Seiden, Eugene Fawnin, and the guy in charge of the agency that deals with issues regarding judges in our legal system. We want the best legal system, don't we?
One would think.
Well, that's what I support. So I support Daniel Seiden. I support Eugene Fawnin. I support the person in Albany who said no comment, because I'm open-minded. I don't prejudge. All I want is to ask a few questions. So they're all invited to call in, or if they want to make arrangements, and maybe it's kind of, we're only on till noon. Maybe they'll want to come in Monday morning. We could talk for an hour.
That'd be great.
Okay. I'm here for the people of Binghamton and the people of New York State, but most of all, for the people of America. It's 9:45 at News Radio, WNBF. Morning, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Oh, water in the lines, water in the lines. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Bob, it's Gary from the West Side. I'd like to talk about the city council. They passed that homeless bill that went through, like some rights that they gave the homeless. And I just want to make sure I understand what happened. So they put this thing through so that the homeless, when they go to apply for jobs, they're not discriminated against because they don't have an address. That's part of it. And then the other part that I liked was that the police and private homeowners can still remove people if they, camp out in their property or somewhere along Main Street or something like that. That's pretty much what I get from it, right? Am I missing anything there?
You know more about it than I do.
Oh. Okay, yeah, what struck me, though, was so they don't want discrimination against someone who doesn't have an address when they go to apply for a job. So I don't know. I think that if somebody goes and applies for a job and they don't have an address, and the person that wants to hire them sees, hey, they don't have an address, they can't do anything, okay. But do you really want to hire somebody that is homeless? And because you got to think this person must do drugs, might be a little dishonest, might need money quicker than when my paycheck's going to be coming. You don't want nobody to steal from you. But here's the other thing, too. In New York State, okay, let's say I hire this person. And then the next day, I could legally fire him for no reason at all because New York State's got that, right? They can just fire anybody. I'm not sure what that accomplishes, the whole no signature. You can't discriminate against that. I don't get that part. Can you enlighten me on that, or?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, at least I'm honest. I mean, I could say something, but I can't speak with any. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could say, well, I could call experts. If experts want to call in, I don't know who to call. Who is an expert on homelessness rights? And I mean, we've had, I believe, Rebecca Rathmel talked about this legislation. Jared Cram talked about this legislation. We've had them on the program.
Yep. Right.
Personally, I don't see how you can discriminate against a person because he or she is homeless. But the way things work in terms of employment in New York State, so say, and again, this is hypothetical and people will scoff because they'll say, Bob, it's totally unrealistic, but just suspend your disbelief for a moment. Say for some reason that I am forced to end my work here at WNBF, say as of noon today. By the way, for people who get concerned about these things, it's not going to happen. But say I
just
did.
heard a cheer from Vestal, though. I just heard a cheer from Vestal.
and one from Endwell. 2 cheers from Vestal and 1 from Endwell. And again, for a
so
more.
You lose your job. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, whether I lose my job because they got tired of hearing me, or maybe they finally, took to heart what the one guy has been calling for the last 40 years. So they took it to heart and said, okay, he has a point. So my final utterance on the station will happen just before noon today. And then they're in a position where, oh my gosh, well, who can we get to host the program Monday morning? And let's face it, who wants to have all the responsibilities I have? I mean, hosting the show is actually the fun part, but one of the tougher parts is the news-related stuff, and that's also interesting, but and I won't go into all the details of what's involved with my job because it's far different than the good old days, the simpler days, but say that they can't find anybody in the journalistic community who would take this job because there are too many responsibilities beyond just hosting.
Hire homeless.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I took 3 minutes to get to the point. So they decide.
That's okay.
Well, we know where some people who are unhoused are living. Let's see if one of them would be willing, at least starting Monday, to take the job, and they could do that because in New York State, let's face it, once you have the job, you're not guaranteed that you'll ever. I mean, I could be terminated right now. I could be terminated live on the air during this call, and I have no. Well,
right, you could be.
Yeah, I mean, would I have some legal recourse? But yeah, who knows? But the bottom line is, I don't think anybody should be discriminated in terms of hiring based on whether or not they have a legal address. But then again, people run businesses, and in fairness, I don't care if I'm running
and
WNBF.
Have to be successful.
Well, that's the
has
thing.
To be successful.
On the other hand, things are so difficult from a hiring standpoint that some businesses at this stage, even if their first impression is that we don't really want to hire someone who's homeless and give him or her a chance, we are having so much difficulty finding real people who want to really work that we will take a chance on this person. And who knows, they could turn out to be one of their best employees ever. But the bottom line is, even once you have the job, say somebody who is unhoused today is hired to take over this program on Monday, then, on Wednesday, even if the guy is doing a much better job than I do, which is a possibility, they could still come in to the studio and say, hey, you're out of here. Right. Why? Because I don't have a legal address? No, not because of that. Just because.
No.
In fact, they could say specifically, absolutely not. Absolutely.
And they don't have to give an answer, actually.
Well, that's right. Under law, they don't have to explain.
Right, under law.
Yeah. Love means never having to say you're sorry, and same with hiring people. You never have to explain. So, they could say, actually, we were impressed. You did 2.5 days of really good talk shows, far better than that bad person that we finally...
And didn't steal anything.
And didn't steal anything like that bad person. So,
pens.
yeah. The lucrative WNBF pens and refrigerator magnets. So, but still, your services are no longer needed, and they don't have to say anything more. Just get out of here. Here's a cardboard box. Take all your stuff. And they probably would say thank you because they're polite. They would probably even say, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors, because that's what you do.
I think it's backwards, though. I think, who wants to hire someone that's homeless knowing that the reason they're homeless, because they're offered homes, but the reason that they're homeless is because they want to be, and they're probably using drugs. Now, I'm sorry to project that on a person, but that's usually what happens. And as a business owner, I don't want somebody that's on drugs. Why don't we just try to get rid of that first before?
Right. Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. In the end, I don't know what the solution is.
It's tough.
As they say, it's complicated. Appreciate your call.
Sure.
And again, for our more sensitive viewers, I trust me, I am not going anywhere. Sorry to get your hope up. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? More water in the lines. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning. Did I hear Vestal invoked? I heard that word, Bob.
You did.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, you took your Rambo pill this morning. I noticed that. Hey,
By the way, I always appreciate criticism. Continue.
No, I'm not criticizing at all, Bob. I love listening to you. But anyways, when I was listening to the thought of you being homeless, Bob, I was just thinking about, Bob.
But that wasn't the point. Wasn't the point of me being homeless. The point would be me leaving here at noon today for whatever reason, and then they can't find anybody in their right mind who has any sort of talk show or journalistic experience who would take the job. And so the whole part of the exercise was that they take a chance on someone who's unhoused. Continue.
The homeless would rally around you, Bob. You'd be a great spokesman for them. You'd become the first homeless mayor in the country. The first one. You'd be that popular. I can see it all now, Bob. Hey, anyways, real quick. Fluoride, Bob. I listen to that guy. Do what most people do, Bob. It's such a simple thing. Just rinse with the tap water.
Yeah, but what about some people who make their coffee or other beverages with tap water? What if you don't want fluoride in your beverages?
That's why we have spring water.
All right. By the way, I have to only terminate this call just because of timing issues. In this case, I'll allow you to call in between now and noon, but we're running out of time in this segment. So thank you, Dave. Be glad to talk more about fluoride later in the program. 9:56, this is Binghamton Now with Bob Joseph on WNBF. Joined in the studio now by a Windsor resident, Devin Feehan, who has, I think, an interesting story to tell and to share with us on this Friday morning. Devin, welcome to WNBF.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So tell me a bit about what you're involved in, a professional ATV rider. And to be honest, I know very little about this. I think I've read bits and pieces over the years, but it's all something new to me, and I'm guessing it's something that most of our listeners are not that familiar with. Tell us a little bit about the sport that you're involved in, and then we'll talk a little bit about growing up here in the Binghamton area.
Yeah, for sure. The ATVs is definitely where this whole thing started, and it really developed my passion for endurance sports, which has led to where I am now as a professional cross-country mountain biker. So I've kind of taken the endurance training component of the ATV racing and the skills and just the effort required to do both of those sports and put it all into cycling. So that's where I am now, and excited to keep going with it.
So you're 24 years old, and obviously you've been interested in this for a while. Tell our listeners a little bit about your early years and sort of what got you interested in this sport and going into competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in terms of where I am now on the bicycle, riding, continuing the trend of competing off-road. Definitely early on, the cross-country ATV racing really struck me as something I wanted to pursue to the highest level, and that was in GNCC racing, which is a basically 2-hour cross-country ATV race through the woods. It's basically, you're going wide open, so it's like a 2-hour time trial. So navigating terrain and all that stuff, and so that's where the whole thing started.
At what point did you start to realize that you're pretty good at this?
Yeah, I was, in 2016, I was actually the national top amateur in the U.S., and then the next year in 2017, I was the Pro-Am national champion. So I ended up actually racing in the professional field starting at 18 years old, which is as young as you can be for racing as a professional in that sport. And I really wanted to pursue it as a profession. And I did it out of high school. I continued to go to college at SUNY Broome so I could pursue both an education and my passion and career as an athlete. So, I definitely had, just an insane drive to make it happen starting when I did, a little bit later than some kids. But I just think the work ethic is something I really learned to make up for that and have, more longevity as an athlete. So, and then from 2018 to 2022, I raced as a professional in that sport, and I finished 6 times on the podium and came absolutely as close as it gets to winning a race. But while competing at that level and having some success and seeing my career come together, I really had a shift in perspective just as a person and as an athlete. And I just really had a passion for training, endurance training, cycling. I was always riding a bicycle since I was a kid. And I just was studying the training, reading books, like everything I could about nutrition, training physiology, anatomy, and taking online courses to get more into that stuff. So,
and I find it remarkable that there's so much really involved. It sort of is in many ways similar to some of the stories that people are learning about during the Summer Olympics in France this year. If you listen to some of the stories, I mean, it's not just that you decide one day, I like doing this and I think I'm good. It's basically something that becomes a true passion. I mean, you live it and you breathe it, you eat it. I mean, it is a part of who you are. And that's the only way you can excel.
Absolutely. It's part of your identity, as someone who continues to face challenges and push their body to the max. I mean, that is what we love, as endurance athletes, and it is a long-term game. I think if you really look into endurance sports, you see a lot of people having success later in their careers, and honestly, it is because of the time commitment it takes for training. I mean, at the highest level of endurance sports, no matter the sport, whether it's running, cycling, rowing, you're putting in 20 to 30 hours a week at the highest level to be competitive. And it also takes compounded years of that effort for the body to actually adapt and get those adaptations required to succeed at that level.
You just won a couple of medals in Pennsylvania just less than 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was on the bicycle for my first year as an elite rider in the U.S. I've had a national focus this year. I've had a handful of podiums. I actually won a Class 1 race for the first time this season, and then national championships, which is one of my biggest races for this year. Coming into it, my first year, I was obviously shooting for the best and to land on the podium for both disciplines that I race, being cross-country Olympic and cross-country short circuit. I don't think it could have gone any better, so it was a great result.
So I think the interesting thing is, as you look ahead to next month when you're going to be competing in Lake Placid, you're not just going to take, say, the next 6 or 7 weeks off and hang out and eat cheeseburgers and think, well, I hope I do well in late September. You still have to continue your regular preparation and keep focused on what will be coming up at the end of September.
Yeah, and to follow that thread of what endurance sports are about, not only longevity but also consistency. It is a day in and day out kind of sport. The adaptations you gain come and go very rapidly. So I do work with a coach on my training, and actually after nationals I had 1 day off, and it was right back to training in the gym and then back on the bike on the third day. So. Definitely. There's always a race coming ahead, and you need to maintain a pretty high level of preparation. So, Lake Placid is actually a World Cup, which is an international level of competition, higher up than what national championships is. So, yes, I will be lining up with the best in the business of this sport.
Along the way, it seems, at least what you've said this morning, it sounds like it's all been pretty positive and things have gone to a great extent your way, but certainly there have been disappointments that you've encountered. Tell me about some of those things where you didn't do as well as you had expected. Obviously, nobody's going to be number one in every event, but still, you, I'm sure, at least have in mind before any event how you expect you'll do, and certainly I'm sure sometimes it hasn't gone exactly as you anticipated.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's something I don't really always put at the forefront, the bad days, but I can tell you that there's definitely as many bad days as there are good, if not more. It's definitely a challenge to keep pushing and have those setbacks, whether it's sickness or injuries, crashes, mistakes in races. Honestly, just training takes its toll mentally and physically, and you have to manage your emotional energy, manage your physical body. It's pretty brutal, but it's easy to look at a good result and say it was easy, but I can attest that it always comes at a cost.
And we see, of course, over the last couple of weeks with the competitions in Paris and elsewhere in France, we know no matter what the competition is, these world-class athletes, whether they're from the United States or elsewhere, have really poured their hearts and their souls into it. And obviously when they wind up earning a medal, first, second, or third place, you can see the ecstasy, but also you can see in some cases where they come really, really close. And it's heartbreaking, and yet that's all part of competition. And ultimately, that's all really part of our life experiences anyway. We're going to have to deal with those disappointments frequently along the way.
Yeah, I think if you look at the best athletes, the main goal is to leave it all out there on the course. And if you gave it everything you had and turned yourself inside out and suffered as hard as you can, especially in a bicycle race, I think you can walk away feeling like it was a good day. That's the cool thing about cross-country mountain biking is it's a cycling discipline that does go to the Olympics. So I think a lot of people understand the Tour de France and they can relate to that. But when you talk about cross-country mountain biking, it's kind of a niche discipline in a way, but it is a very massive and internationally competitive sport. That is, the level right now is insane. If you watch the Olympics, both male and female, U.S. athletes had the two best finishes, with Haley Batten on the female side getting a medal in second, and Riley Amos as a first-year Olympian finished seventh for the U.S., which was both the best finishes for our country. So I think the U.S. is getting stronger in the discipline. Overall, they're crushing it, and the road side as well right now. But honestly, it was an awesome race on both sides. But like you said, when things come close, the male side came down to the last lap, and I think Tom Pidcock passed Victor Koretsky with maybe 3 corners to go after racing for 90 minutes full gas. So yeah, I think that's a perfect example of, it can be brutal in that regard.
In the short term, you're looking forward to Lake Placid late next month. Then what's on your agenda beyond, looking ahead for the next few years? What are your plans?
Yeah, no, I think I'm definitely taking what I learned from racing the ATVs early on and really approaching that as an endurance sport and continuing to push my professional career as far as I can go. And yeah, just trying to continue to develop as an athlete and race more World Cups in the future. And beyond World Cups, there's actually what's called World Championships, which happens once a year. And that's where the world champion of the season will be decided in that race. So, and then obviously the highest level that this sport can go is the Olympics.
Stay tuned. Devin Feehan of Windsor, thank you for your time. I wish you continued success.
All right. I appreciate you having me.
It's 10:22. We're live and local on News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com. This is Binghamton Now on WNBF. With Bob Joseph on your Friday morning. Coming up, the weather facts. The facts without the frivolity. From the National Weather Service and Dave Nicosia. What will happen in the next 24 hours or so? Or maybe the next 72 hours? Dave Nicosia from the National Weather Service will provide those facts to you live in real time right here on News Radio, WNBF. There is a flash flood warning now in effect for portions of our listening area. So a flash flood warning is in effect for southwestern Broome and central Susquehanna counties, and that is in effect until 1:45 this afternoon. Stay tuned for any additional warnings that could be issued. We're here for you on WNBF. Generally across the region, there is a flood watch in effect until 2 Saturday morning. WNBF.com. What a good website, he said in a self-promotional mode. Still, and I am biased, but I still think it's a pretty darn good website with some interesting news stories and other features. For example, I call your attention to this proposal for micro apartments. How big does your apartment have to be? A micro apartment project has now been proposed for some city-owned land on Binghamton's west side. And we have the details, have a couple of renderings on our website, WNBF.com. So if you want to see what is being proposed in terms of micro apartments, check it out. I was thinking, I don't live in an apartment, but if I did, I was thinking, how big would my apartment have to be? Could I live in a micro apartment? And I'm not sure I could. But maybe I could. Maybe I would try it for a week just to see. It's 10:28 WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Binghamton John. On the micro apartments, there's a little bit more to the story. He wants to get the land for $1 from the city.
Right. Initially, that was the proposal, and then I think somebody said, well, that's not right, that we have to sell it for something a lot more than $1 because this is to a private individual and private business. So I think in the end, or not, it's not over yet. Still, this is not even the beginning of the end, but I think he would wind up acquiring those properties for perhaps $500 each, 4 parcels. Anyway, hey, John, can you do me a favor? Looks like Dave Nicosia is calling in right now. And without further ado, even though it's 30 seconds early, we bring you instant weather with Dave Nicosia from the National Weather Service. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Well, let's cut to the chase. Where do things stand right now? We've been anxiously awaiting this day because we certainly knew that remnants of Debbie were heading our way. So where do things stand at the moment as of 10:30 here in the Binghamton area, and what can we expect, say, over the next 12 to 24 hours?
Well, it is raining very hard right now, and there's very heavy tropical rain showers coming through. We do have flash flood warnings in effect for Broome County and down into Susquehanna County. We got a lot more rain to come today. So, I mean, the warning was issued not only for the rain that has fallen, but the additional rain that we expect, possibly another 2.5, 3 inches of rain. So it's going to rain most of the day today. The other threat that we're not 100% certain of, but there is a chance that we could see some isolated tornadoes later today. On the east side of Debbie, there's been quite a few tornadoes, south of our area, down in the mid-Atlantic and to the Carolinas. That part of the storm will be coming up through the southern tier this afternoon. Right now, northeast PA actually is under a tornado watch. We don't have any indications of any tornadoes as of yet, but, it's in effect for another few hours. So, and then we turn our attention to the river. The Susquehanna might touch minor flooding at this point. So we're still evaluating that as well. So it's quite busy here on top of Mount Ittrick at the National Weather Service in Binghamton. So, yeah, I'm actually in the ops area right now helping the staff.
Yeah, well, this is the time when I would think it's pretty much all hands on deck when you've got changeable weather conditions across the region that's served by the Binghamton office.
Yeah, I got 5 people out here. We got another one coming in. So, yeah, normally we run a shift with 2, but we got extra staffing today. Of course, we planned up for this. So, but yeah, the main threat is going to just be flash flooding, and especially urban flooding. Through the Binghamton area, Triple Cities. Those underpasses, and like we just had it the other day. We had some significant flooding in some areas. And it's like West Corners and stuff. Same type of thing. That's the biggest concern that I have is if people get stuck in the water or washed away. It's just not good. So avoid flooded roadways. That's probably the big takeaway. The river, we're pretty sure we're going to escape seeing anything more than minor flooding. So that's the good news. We don't think we're going to get enough rain to get into that moderate or certainly the major stages where we'd have much more significant problems. It looks like that's not going to happen. So just the minor flooding along the Susquehanna at this point. But, we got to wait till the storm goes through.
Does it seem to be moving as quickly as you had expected when we spoke with you on Thursday morning at this time?
It's much faster. The storm came in a lot faster than we anticipated, and it's going to leave faster than we anticipated. So quite a few of our computer models are projecting the rain will end in the Triple Cities area early evening. I mean, that quick. I mean, it originally looked like the rain was going to last well into the night, but it wasn't going to start until about this time, like right now. When we were talking yesterday, I was expecting late morning, early afternoon it was going to start. It was going to end around midnight, early morning. But now it started like around 5 a.m., during the overnight hours. It's about 6 hours faster than we anticipated. And that's really the good news, is that the storm is moving a lot faster. That helps keep the rainfall amounts down. So down to a level where we don't have to worry about the rivers at this point. So probably got another 6-7 hours of this rain. And then hopefully we won't see any small tornadoes, because these things can produce small tornadoes, and hopefully we won't see that up here. But we're keeping we got people on radar, and we're watching the radar signatures for anything like that. So
you'll do your best to push out a tornado warning if conditions appear to warrant that.
Absolutely, and just heed all the warnings. That's all I would say. And be informed. Make sure you have. There's a lot of good weather apps out there where you can get the warnings. There's a FEMA app that has all the warnings, and there's all kinds of other third-party apps. Or you could just go to our website. We have all the warnings on there, or you can listen to WXL38 Binghamton.
It's one of my favorite stations when I'm not listening to Don Morgan. I mean, you're morning man. One thing I'll say about WXL38, and looking back over the decades, I've just marveled at its overall consistency. It's one of the most consistent radio stations ever in Broome County.
That's right. Our weather radio, and it's on 162.475 megahertz, so you have to buy a weather radio. Those are very, very good ways to get all the warnings and all the forecasted information for the area. So there's multiple ways to get warnings. Just stay informed. That's the key, and just know when if you're under a warning. Like we're under a flash flood warning. If you live in a flash flood prone area right now in the Triple Cities, be aware. And it's like, I probably wouldn't be out driving in areas that we know that flood a lot.
Well, even on 17, I was, of course, speeding in to do my job. Actually, I had to stop at Otsenango Park to say hi to the waterfowl. It wasn't much. There was one guy out jogging this morning. He's one of those diehards who will jog 366 days a year. But other than that, the park was virtually deserted. But on my way, there was a patch on Route 17 before exit 72 where I could easily, and Dave, I mean easily, lost control of the vehicle because there was a little bit of ponding or whatever. I mean, it was only for less than a second, but it's when how you get that feeling saying, ooh, I didn't see that coming, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, you can be really careful out there, yeah. And there's going to be a lot of that. And again, there's another band of pretty heavy rain heading. Right now, it's going up through Montrose right now, and it's heading right for Binghamton. So, I mean, it's just going to continue for another 6-7 hours. So,
on the bright side, after all this clears out, it looks to me, unless this is one big typo, it looks like the forecast for the Binghamton area includes generally sunny conditions for the next 6 consecutive days. Is that an error? Did somebody push that out in error?
Push the wrong button.
It's rare that you see sunny or mostly sunny skies for nearly a full week into the future, but that looks promising.
It is rare, yes, but it looks like we're going to have a quiet period. So yes, and it's going to be a lot less humidity, too, so it's going to be really nice August weather, much, much nicer than what we've seen, and get rid of all this humidity. I don't like the humidity, so it'll be nice to get rid of the humidity and it'll dry out, and you might have an afternoon shower in a few days here and there, but for the most part, it's going to be after this storm passes, it should be fairly nice and cooler and less humid, which will be welcome, I think.
And then, on deck, Ernesto. And how much devastation do you think Ernesto will be causing for the Binghamton area? What do we have to do?
All right, let's
I know you're saying one at a time, Bob.
One at a time. I haven't even thought about it. I'm just worried. Honestly, I've been just focused on Debbie.
I know.
The next one, hopefully they'll stay far away.
Right. But, the bottom line is, we already have discovered this is, I think it's fair to say, a somewhat more active summer in terms of weather compared to, say, a typical summer. There has been a lot of activity in terms of thunderstorms, and even as we saw during the month of July, I believe it was a record number of tornadoes for New York State. So 2024 certainly is shaping up to be one of the more active years in terms of weather and storms.
Yeah, we're getting burned out here. I'm telling you.
Time to call in reinforcements. Call up NOAA headquarters and say you need some fresh faces.
Well, now we got some people on vacation. They'll come back fresh.
Of course.
But we got enough staff here. But some of us, especially myself, it's been quite a ride the last month. So. But, like I said, after today, we'll get a chance. We'll get a nice respite. So, and then we can watch Ernesto or whatever's next, right?
There's always something, and I didn't even look down the list. Let's see. Probably after Ernesto, it'll probably be my friend Felicia.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's... And even if Felicia doesn't turn out to be a really big deal, you can bet I'll provide essential coverage because that's what I do here.
Yep, and... we'll be on it. If
All right.
It's going to be in our area, we'll be on it. That's what we do here.
Dave Nicosia, the man in charge at the National Weather Service office high atop Mount Ettrick, Greater Binghamton Airport. Thank you.
Have a great day, Bob.
You too. It's 1040 WNBF Live, Binghamton Now, real weather in real time, giving you some basic information. Believe me, I don't like it. I don't like stormy weather. But, hey, you take it as it comes, and we try to give you as much current information as is feasible. 607-772-1290. If your phone isn't all wet, you might want to call us. And if you get through, I certainly will carry on a great conversation on this Friday morning. WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. Binghamton Now, 1044. With the most calls in the world, he said, with no evidence to back it up. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Water in the line. Water in the line. Send in a crew. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is a repeat, John.
Thank you. As you were saying.
Yes. Regarding the controversy, the current controversy in the 6th Judicial District, and people have got to understand that we've lost half a dozen judges in a couple of decades, censured, retired, out, kicked out, all kinds of strange things have happened. But the point, I think, is this. We elect judges. When judges are shifted around willy-nilly, in other words, you cast a vote for family court, say, that family court judge is talking about how the foster, he's campaigning on the foster child issue, or him or her being more understanding and knowing the problems that people go through. And the next thing you know, this guy's handling credit card debt cases in another court. So you're not getting what you're voting for. And this particular judge, for re-election for another 10 years, but he's working in Cortland County. So this is a scam, Bob. This is a scam.
Well, how come they don't explain it? You see, what I don't know, and until I hear more. I mean, obviously, I've heard bits and pieces, but it doesn't rise to the level of being reportable. The bottom line is, how come, whether it's the current case or any of these other cases that we've seen unfold in recent years, how come there's so much secrecy? You would think, and this is just me because I guess I don't understand the way the USA is supposed to operate, I know how it operates. You would think in this great country that it would be appropriate for information to be released in real time, at least allegations, with the obligatory statement at the bottom, nobody is actually guilty of anything until and unless they're convicted in a court of law. I mean, that's what they do for everybody else. If I was being accused of something, or you were being accused of something, they'd be happy to put out a news release with all or many of the particulars about allegations with that boilerplate language at the end. Don't think for a minute that he did anything wrong because he hasn't been convicted. How come judges and some other public servants have a different rule? Well,
I think it goes to the level of competency here, right? In this 6th Judicial District, this is a wide swath. People can look at the map and see how much of it encompasses. It's controlled out of here, out of luxury office space in the Kilmer building, by a judge who is a judge too. He's the administrative judge here. And in addition, all the other judges are in charge of other judges. But a lot of these people that are on the bench in Binghamton and Broome County are failed judges. They are failed lawyers. They've blown big cases. They've done all kinds of things before they hoodwink the public with an ad campaign full of promises that they will never and have no intention of delivering. So it's partly ability. Never have we seen such a low bar set for, and a lot of these people run unopposed too. But I again, they can, when they are doing a candidate forum or a debate, they'll try to hoodwink the public. Well, I can't talk about that. There's a lot that can be talked about, and but it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial for the Democrat Party, if they have to ditch this guy that they know now, and if this guy gets elected for a city court judge, when's he coming back to Binghamton? To be on the bench that the Binghamton residents are voting for. I mean, this shuffling around, and keep in mind that the people that are hearing the cases, they're employees, they're lawyers, some of them, they're employees of the 6th Judicial District. They never got a vote, or some of them got a vote in the primary and it didn't pan out. So these are the people that are hearing your cases. So if I'm in city court in front of these people, I would say, hey, nobody elected these people in the city of Binghamton. I want a city judge.
Well, I think it's fair to say we're not going to get any answers anytime soon. Because I sense that the judge isn't going to be inclined to call us. I get the sense that the guy, I guess Supreme Court Justice who assigned him up to Cortland, I see no reason for him to call in and explain what's going on. And certainly the person who put out the terse no comment to Jim Emke at News 34, I mean, what kind of an operation are they running there? We deserve better. And maybe because of professional courtesy or whatever, or tradition, maybe we should not expect them to get into any specifics at this stage, at this point. But I think we, as New Yorkers, we, as people who love the city of Binghamton, deserve a better explanation from the people in charge of judicial discipline than no comment. Who do they think they are, Gannett?
Well, exactly. And there's been judges under a cloud, and they're assigned to some sort of paper shuffling job while they're collecting, the county judges $225,000 a year. They're taken off the bench, and while their cases are being heard. But I mean, and let me tell you something. Let's say there's two scenarios I'll give you, that they know that this is going to leak out before the election, and that would make the challenger a shoo-in probably, or this guy gets elected and then he's booted off after maybe his pension is maximized, and then Cram gets to appoint a judge. I mean, what the hell's going on here? I mean, we've got elected judges, Bob. That's the system that we have here for these people, except in the Court of Claims and things like that. So get this guy back. Or what do I have to do? Go up to Cortland with my camera?
Oh, my gosh. You wouldn't.
If somebody gave me gas money, I probably would.
How much does it cost? What do you figure? $10? Stop by the front desk. I'll leave a 20.
Well, that's a VA, Bob. It's a VA.
Okay. Well, at least it'll cover a part of your cost. Anyway, thanks, John. Appreciate your thoughts. WNBF, the station that allows thoughts to be expressed, because we're still a country that embraces freedom of speech. Some restrictions will apply. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Matt, the corrector, Ryan.
So what if something happened where Jared Cram would be in this unenviable position of having to appoint a city court judge. Would you be willing to accept an appointment?
No, I'm too old.
Oh, that's right. There's a mandatory retirement age. I forgot about that. Darn.
Hey, by the way, this just shows you how you can't let people go on your station. We can let them. They can say anything they want. But it's pretty clear. If you read, City Mayor Scott Steve announces at Tuesday's Common Council meeting that Elizabeth Burns, now a former city judge, is in a new position. This is about Cortland, in a new position at the state level as of June 6th. Steve added that part-time city judge Lawrence Knickerbocker will fill the void left behind by Burns. Clearly, what happened was that Knickerbocker couldn't handle the load, and they assign judges all the time when this happens. Judge Palella and Judge Cacciola were both doing assigned county court judges in our county for quite a while over it instead of being city court judges. So this is nothing. This is a nothing story.
Okay, without going into specifics, why did what happened earlier this week at City Hall happen? Because I'll just say this about that, the optics apparently weren't good.
I don't know what did happen.
I can't, because I wasn't there and I haven't independently corroborated it. I know I before saying that, I mean, it wasn't anything totally shocking or untoward, but it was, we'll just say if what happened on Tuesday did happen, it just, we'll say it didn't look good, but I'll look into it further. It's just, if you don't know about it, well, ask questions. Ask questions. People in your circle would be able to possibly verify if anything happened. Ask questions of people at City Hall.
Okay, I will. But I do know that, my experience with Judge Seiden is I appointed him a temporary judge, or when I forget who retired or something happened way back when I was mayor, and then he got elected. And then when I became not mayor anymore and did some pro bono work in city court, he would never hear a case with me as the lawyer because he felt it was a conflict of interest. And I think that shows a lot about his character, that he just didn't want any appearance of impropriety. So
my question, Matthew, as an officer of the court, why is there a lack of transparency? Why would Jim Emke be greeted with an apparently snotty and or snarky no comment when he called Albany to find out why the city court judge in Binghamton is no longer hearing cases here? Why didn't they just say, well, there's a perfectly good explanation, and here it is?
Well, maybe when he called, they didn't know what the explanation was.
Well, how can they not know? Why didn't they just say, Jim, we don't know for sure. So what we'll do right now, we'll look into it. We'll make a call, because clearly by making a call down to Binghamton City Court, they could find out within 5 minutes what's going on. Then they could have called Mr. Emke back and said, so here's the deal. There's nothing to see here. This is a nothing burger. So, Jim, go about your business. If there's a story involving a Binghamton City Court judge, you'll be notified by us. Otherwise, everything is fine.
Right. I don't disagree. I mean, we all know that we don't get everybody's upset with the fact that we don't have as much transparency in government or officials and all that. I don't know why they do things the way they do. I'm pretty sure that it's a nothing burger, though.
All right. Well, I hope it is. Yeah, I hope it is. Hey, I have to run. We've got to wrap up this segment. I appreciate your call. Again, I have no idea, but it would be reasonable for the judge or the person who assigned him to Cortland or anybody else who has the information to call us and put it in the right context and say, Bob, stop chewing on this nothing burger. You're getting absolutely nothing out of it. Go and have a great weekend. Thank you. It's 10:58. More coming up. Live and local on News Radio WNBF. Joined now by Joanne Hanrahan with the Friends of the Broome County Public Library. And despite the sunny day, the book sale is going on.
Yes, it is. Everybody's braving the weather, and we're having quite the book sale. So it goes on today until 2 o'clock. So you have a little over 2 hours to come on in and shop and get all the books you need because, for Pete's sakes, if you're reined inside, you got to have something to read. You don't want to be left without a book. And then tomorrow, we are open from 9 to 12, and it's our $5 bag sale for the rest of today until 2 o'clock, and then tomorrow from 9 to 12. So we still have plenty of books. I'm hoping to see a lot of people that I haven't seen yet that normally get here. And listen, if you've never been to the library, the Broome County Public Library, and come to or to our book sale, come and see us.
Are all the books being moved up now to the second level as the waters rise?
We are on safe, dry ground.
All right.
There's no problem in our book sale room. I promise.
Is there plenty of room for ARCs in the parking lot?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
We're not having any problem at the library as far as the floods, even though we just got that alert with the floods.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't that irk you? You know, here I'm trying to do a show, and twice in the last hour or so, this thing is irking me with warning, Will Robinson, you know, the waters will rise. Get out of your radio studio.
Well, we had about 15 people in here, and all our phones on and off.
Well, hey, we need to be informed because over the next 12 hours or so, especially, conditions will be changing. So, aside from at least the library is well positioned, but people do have to pay attention to their surroundings today and certainly going into tomorrow morning. Well, I appreciate the update. I'm glad the sale can go on, and I know so many of our listeners, if they can't make it today, will try to make it tomorrow to the Broome County Public Library at 185 Court Street in downtown Binghamton.
Yes, and for $5, you can fill a bag or a box, and they're all yours.
Appreciate the update.
Well, thank you for letting me get on and promote our book sale. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you. Joanne Hanrahan with the Friends of the Broome County Public Library on WNBF. 11:15, we're here till noon, so if you have things that you think ought to be said, call us, 607-772-1290, but think carefully. Think about it. Is it something that really ought to be said? Or is it something best left unsaid? I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now, WNBF. Binghamton Now, it's August 9th. August 9th. What happened on this day in history? Well, I'm glad you asked. 50 years ago, the front pages were dominated with national political news. I am holding right now in my hands what I consider to be a precious and yet faded copy of the Sun Bulletin, a member of the Gannett Group. A member of the Gannett Group before it became part of the USA Today network. The Gannett Group, the Sun Bulletin, Binghamton, New York, actually printed. Was it printed in Binghamton? No, I think it was actually printed on the Vestal Parkway. Friday, August 9th, 1974, 15 cents a copy. The headline, Nixon resigns. Ford to be sworn in at noon. Richard M. Nixon, previous night, said on TV, I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interest of America first. So I give Richard Nixon a lot of credit. When he decided to leave early, he didn't put it on Twitter like some people would. So looking at the coverage, this is the Sun Bulletin when Binghamton actually had a tabloid morning paper, the convenient tabloid size. Maybe they'll bring that back. So page 2, what he said, the text of the speech. Page 3, how Nixon bowed out, a UPI story. I don't see many UPI stories these days. Page 4, looking ahead at Gerald Ford, the 38th president, the story by Gannett News Service. Then additional stories from UPI. And more stories on Page 5 from UPI and Gannett News Service. Local reaction, Robert Irwin and Dan Margulies with 2, not 1, but 2 local reaction stories. Oh, another one. They had 3 local reporters with reaction from around the Binghamton area. Joe Salamondo. Then the political aftermath, some commentary from Mike Dow, The View from Here. Then another story, Charles Holcomb at Gannett and Albany. Then on page 8, Nixon's political career from 1946 to 1974 by Sam Fogg of United Press International. A great overall career assessments of Richard Nixon leading up to his announcement he would resign as president. Then page 10, congressional reaction, UPI. The French felt he was one of the greatest. Another UPI story, Dateline Paris. A UPI story, Dateline Brussels. Then Mideast fears setback, UPI. Page 11, Gannett News Service, 2 additional stories about what happened in the previous week. So there you go. That explains how it was covered. 11 big, bold, bulky pages of the Sun Bulletin on August 9th, 1974. And then compare that with what we have today. And I've got side by side the present Sun Bulletin today. Wafer thin. Apparently no Binghamton stories that I see. No Binghamton editorials. It's all USA Today Network and some Reuters thrown in for good measure, because apparently Reuters has a deal now for Gannett. And for that, we pay $3.50. So, yeah. As they say, times have changed, haven't they? It's 11:23 at News Radio, WNBF. Well, maybe this is just a phase we're going through. Maybe they're planning. Maybe Gannett has a big Project 2025 to rebuild our local news infrastructure. 607-772-1290. Careful out there. Rain continuing to fall. Very heavy rain in many parts of the Triple Cities area. Flash flood warning in effect for northwestern Broome County, western Chenango County, Cortland County till 3:15. And of course, there are some other flash flood warnings around the area. Be prepared. There also may be occasional tornado warnings. There is a chance of some tornadoes forming. There already have been tornadoes that have formed related to the remnants of Debbie. 11:24. This is the Friday edition of Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF. 607-772-1290. I know I've been remiss by not talking about the elephant in the room. So he finally held a news conference. Seems that it's been a long, long time since he held a news conference. And fortunately for those who find these things amusing or entertaining, or in some cases maybe informative, I didn't really see. I saw bits and pieces. I mean, a lot of this stuff, of course, wound up in our big stack of stuff. Our big stack of stuff. One thing that was newsworthy out of the proceeding on Thursday afternoon, apparently he has agreed to debates. So that was one. I guess that was probably the real news out of that zesty session with the reporters. So he announced he's agreed to 3 September debates with Fox and ABC and NBC. He said he hopes Kamala Harris agrees to them as well.
She's barely competent, and she can't do an interview. But I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight.
Can't wait. It's 11:28. More calls, more often. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob. Are you talking about Joe Biden? Nobody's seen him in like 20 days.
He's no longer a factor. It's not.
Oh, yeah. No.
He is absolutely, positively of no concern at this point in time.
Boy, I'm telling you, you're something else. You just couldn't wait to get the elephant in the room. Okay, I want to...
Wait, did you even say who you are?
Yeah, Bob from Vestal.
Oh, okay, Bob from Vestal. I just want to make sure for the FCC records. Bob from Vestal, continue.
And this guy from Whitney Point, I think he was talking about me and Dave, but we believe everything Trump says. That's the first thing. I don't agree or with any politician, everything they say. That's you liberals. If they tell you to eat a piece of you know what, you would. But anyway, I don't like people typecasting me like that into I'm some kind of Trump lover. I'd vote for Mitch McConnell if he ran for president. Anybody but those commies that are trying to get in there. These people will take your paycheck if you're still working. They want to tax you like 80%. Don't you people that work see this? I don't work anymore, so I guess it doesn't really. They want to take all your money. They want to tell you what to drive, what to eat, what to do in your own house, and you people don't get that. Am I on another, plane from you people, or?
No, you're entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, that's an opinion, and these people will call in here. Oh, yeah, these people are the greatest. Look at how this country has gone in the last 3.5 years. Don't they see that? It was so good under Trump. My goodness. That's so frustrating to me every day. Okay, and if Matt calls twice, you're going to tell him, Because I've heard him.
No, actually, I'm going to invite him, since you brought it up. Matt from Binghamton, if you're listening, please call in.
Yeah, see? That's the double standard. People.
No, I wasn't going to do it, but you brought it up. You asked me. Now I'm encouraging Matt from Binghamton. Please, I implore you, call in.
Then I'm calling again, and you better not hang up on me.
Oh, yeah, you do that, too. That's what listeners want to hear, is you twice in one morning. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, you're damn right you do. Maybe some of these people get it through their thick heads. But anyway, I don't even know why I bother. I should just not even turn this on anymore. I only do it when I'm driving around. I just came back from somewhere, and it's always just, when you talk to Nick Garcia and you talk to Gerald Smith and stuff, that's good. But that politics, you just cannot wait to get back into knocking Donald Trump.
Oh, I didn't even mention his name.
Oh, we know who you're talking about.
I just said he. Could be anybody.
How about Kamala? Has she talked to the press? What are you talking about? Trump had his first press. Trump's not president.
He's not. 11:31 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Steve from JC. Hi, how are you doing, Bob?
Oh, hi, Steve. Thanks for calling in. What's up?
Hey, I got a question for you, your listeners, or I also know that you, I think on occasion, had some DOT people on the show from time to time. But could anybody tell me what these bumps about every 100 feet or so on 17 are? And I experienced them between here and Owego. And I've seen them actually dig the road up a trench and then fill it in. And I've never seen this anywhere else in any other part of the country.
Maybe they're conducting an experiment.
Clearly they're conducting.
So where are these bumps? I'm not familiar with the bumps. I drive on Route 17 most days. I don't know that I've seen a bump.
I think you may have done it so much that you're numb to it, maybe. But if just take 17 heading through Owego, It's kind of tough now because of the construction they're doing. But at least between here and Route 26, you won't see them that much. But once you're past that construction, or if you're coming back from the Owego area after you get past the construction heading east, it's like every 100 feet, it's like a small speed bump in the road. They've been there for years.
Okay. You're right. I'm probably just comfortably numb to it. After a while, it's just like you say, well, whatever. It's New York State. One thing I know about New York State, if you ever have the temerity to ask questions, first of all, that goes in your permanent file. So if I send a request, I'm serious. I send a request to the DOT by email. First thing they do is send it to the governor's personal file network. So, again, I don't know why she would even care. And then they have to, if they're going to answer it, and a lot of times they do answer questions, although certainly not as completely, or they pick and choose. Say, if I send them a list of 10 questions, they'll answer maybe about 3 partially. They never give you the full story, but they give you enough of a response to try to cobble together an article to at least, well, the DOT says it's a part of the governor's plan to improve overall highway safety for all New Yorkers, something like that. And it's like, that's not what I asked. I asked what, and then she'll say it's like something to enhance the overall driving experience for Southern Tier soaring. And it's like, what the heck does that have to do with the price of tea in Colony?
Yeah.
So anyway, but I will put that on my list of things to ask, because every once in a while, when I put in a request to a state agency, I'm pleasantly surprised that they actually get permission from Kathy Hochul, or most likely from her husband, because I think he makes most of the decisions about these kinds of requests. So he probably says, all right, Kathy, I think this one we can answer, because it's actually kind of interesting and fairly innocuous. Plus, that means Bob won't be asking about the other allegations. So, maybe I'll ask about that next week and see what the deal is.
I have Googled it. I'm not sure how to phrase it when I Google search it, so I may not be getting the answer. But like I said, I would say 5 summers ago, down close to Owego, I watched them. It went down to one lane, and they would dig a 2-foot trench across one lane of the highway, and then apparently fill it in.
Oh, you know what I think it is? It just occurred to me. So they do this occasionally where you have, because of weather, you know how sections of concrete sometimes, because of temperature changes. So, yes, so I think I've answered the question. Now I understand, because I remember that, and they've done this in other places too.
You can see it on 81 also.
Yeah, and usually that's to eliminate where you've had, because of the rising and falling of different sections of the highway. So instead of having to, sometimes you can just patch over them and hope that, that'll do the trick, but usually it doesn't last very long. So I think using this technique where they've got some separation of the levels of the highway, they do this even though it's time consuming and fairly expensive to try to smooth the ride out. I think that's what you're referencing.
Maybe so, but they need to learn how to pave it better down, because over time these things actually grow up a little bit.
Well, they're always gonna, because I don't know all the technical reasons for it, but look, we're in the Northeast. We have a lot of temperature changes, no matter what the season.
Yeah, but you know what? I grew up in Connecticut, and I've never seen that there.
Well, I don't know. Every state has slightly different nuances with the way they build highways and the way they maintain highways. And also, I think, changes over time. New York State, I think, only fairly recently started doing this on a regular basis. So I know some people who, now that I think about it, who I can contact, as long as I keep their names out of it, and they could probably tell me the real story, because they're not, you know what it is, the people who know the answers and who could give the most accurate information aren't allowed to talk with reporters, or else they'll get fired.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah. So, as opposed to, in the golden age, the DOT actually had a transparency policy that worked well for actually a few decades, where the DOT regional director was always accessible and would gladly answer questions. And it would be simple, because he would be able to call in right now and probably answer your question in about 2 minutes, and then I could say thanks. But, the times have changed.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's really classified about the highway, but...
Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate the call. And, some of our listeners know, especially, the other good source for information are people who are retired from government positions, because then they're no longer bound by the gag order, whether it's city employees or state employees or federal employees or county employees. They no longer have to suffer in silence. They're finally able to, either by email, bob@WNBF.com, or sometimes even by calling in, they can tell the truth, and their former employers can grit their teeth all they want, but it's not going to make a darn bit of difference, because there's no reason, by the way, for this secrecy, unless there's criminality involved. and of course there isn't. This should be just a standard thing where I could call even during a commercial break and say, hey, put the director on the horn. All right, Bob. Yeah, he's listening to the program. He's been waiting for your call, and he has the answer. Hang on. But that was from a bygone era.
Well, that was from an era where we didn't run around suing each other constantly for everything.
Well, that's another thing, too. The fact is, we also live in a litigious society, so I'm sure that's part of it, too. So I have to acknowledge that in sort of a grudging understanding of the ongoing gag orders. Appreciate your call.
So, Bob, I'm going to drop you an email so we're in connection. If you do find something out, you could give me a reply.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bob@WNBF.com. If you have questions, I can try to get answers. If you have news tips, I can try to work on those. If you give me a news tip, Bob@WNBF.com, I'll keep your name out of it. Morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Water in the lines. What could be causing that? Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? More water on the line. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
No water on these lines.
Oh, thank goodness. I was thinking that you finally had shut off the radio for the week, and you missed his plaintive plea. So, all right, we have 15 minutes. So what else is on your mind, Matt from Binghamton?
Well, remember, I got cut off by the news last time.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we'll actually cut into the first 30 minutes of Dan Bongino, because I want to be fair to you, to be able to give you sufficient time to express your views. So, continue.
Well, just to clear up, I don't know where is it Bob from Vestal gets his. There's nobody that's look. The only taxes that, if they ever get them passed, that the Democrats want to put in place are only going to affect people making over $400,000 a year. I don't think Bob's pension's that big. And so he just makes up stuff that he's heard from some place that's not telling him the truth. Go check it out. There's never been any tax increases proposed of anything under $400,000. And they want to tax people who aren't paying any taxes, who make billions of dollars. So that's why it's a more fair. They want a more fair system. What I'd like to also say is that guy. First of all, I hope at least that guy has the guts to say that it's InfoWars where he got his information. Because how many people believe Alex Jones after he pretty much doesn't own anything anymore? He's got to pay millions and millions of dollars for lying about Sandy Hook, and it's just so. What? And I went and looked up that clip. It's true. After the Supreme Court decided that Colorado couldn't keep Trump off the ballot because they were claiming that case was that he was an insurrectionist, Jamie did sit down with people and talked about it and is co-sponsoring legislation because in that decision that the Supreme Court made, which we know they've gone totally Trump now, and even John Roberts, who had some modicum of discretion, is now totally in that camp, apparently. And basically what they said in that decision was that Congress had to, if there was anybody who's going to be declared an insurrectionist, Congress would have to do it. Now, and he's making it into something about civil, what they're saying is he's going to try to do that if Trump got reelected because he believes he's an insurrectionist and he's a member of Congress. And that's what the Supreme Court told him to do. Now, what he was saying was, if I do that, we'll probably have those same people who did the insurrection before banging on our doors again. He was just predicting what would happen if he tried to do what the Supreme Court told him to do and what he feels he should do, because he feels strongly that there was an insurrection provoked by Donald Trump, and that he is on the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment clearly says that you shouldn't be able to hold that office if you were part of an insurrection. So it's all about, but Jamie Raskin, the difference is Jamie Raskin's doing it within the system that is provided. So if he talks about that and Alex Jones makes it into some big conspiracy, no. Jamie Raskin isn't going to ask anybody to come to the Capitol to destroy things and not let...
Did Raskin say it'll be wild?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that'd be different. If he just said after whatever it is he said about Civil War and then said, we'll be wild, then, because we know what that means. WBL is shorthand for, come on, let's go and right. Trespass in federal buildings and break things, and then just run completely amok, like nothing can stop us now. I think maybe that's the theme. Maybe that they'll have new commercials starting November 6th after the election results come out. And, if they want to have more trouble in January, which you get a sense some people are looking forward to, they could have like a song like Nothing Can Stop Us Now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I agree with you. The most important news that came out of Trump's desperate press conference yesterday was that he's going to apparently debate, and he put up a whole list of debates. The only one that's been agreed to is the September 10th one, and that's the one that Kamala Harris has agreed to at this point.
Right,
but
and hopefully she'll agree to others. By the way, I think it's great that they'll have one on ABC and one on NBC and one on Fox. I think that's great. I think they also should have one on CBS.
Well, it depends on how. Look, if you have a guy that, like in Biden's case, when Biden did a horrible job, but
now, by the way, I've had more time to reflect on that, and I beg to differ, because I know the instant reaction from the talking head class was that it was a bad debate. But I've looked back at some of the clips of it, and it turns out I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people were making it out to be. I mean, a lot of people, I think, were just like gleeful. I think some people were just gleeful to take shots at President Biden. And, I think the more I think about it, I think the more deplorable I think that was. Well,
okay, and I'm glad you've come around a little on that.
Well, again, I am willing, but Matt, I'm always working to reconsider. So just because I take an original position, as I reflected and looked more at some of the specific parts of that debate, including the fact that the other guy was prevaricating constantly. There were lies after lies after lies. And I found that part to be disturbing, if unsurprising.
Well, and then, I know you didn't have time to look at all the press conference yesterday. I watched most of it. His same old thing, same old story, and now he's the oldest guy ever to run for president. He said, we're a sick country. And then he started off about where they asked him about the crowd sizes of one reporter about Harris's crowd sizes. And he actually said, he compared himself again to Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream crowd size. which is the only one that could compare to that is his initial inauguration, which people have seen the pictures. There's no comparison. And he's still trying to convince people that he had bigger crowds than Martin Luther King's.
Oh, come on, man. He wouldn't say that.
He did. Yes, he did. And
where? On TV? Did he say that on TV?
In the press conference. Yes. And also, he said that he was talking about Willie Brown because Willie Brown, they're trying to...
Oh, that part
Willie
I
Brown
heard. He claimed that Willie Brown and they were in this helicopter and they almost crashed.
The only helicopter he was ever within with anybody was
Jerry Brown.
Jerry Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
So I could see if they were in a helicopter, the former guy and California Governor Jerry Brown, I could see if Jerry Brown had something to say about Linda Ronstadt. I'm pretty darn certain Jerry Brown had absolutely nothing to say about Kamala Harris. Why would he?
Exactly. I don't even know if he knew where she was back then.
I doubt it.
Anyway, right. And so the point is, if Biden had ever said something like that I was on a helicopter with Willie Brown when it was really Jerry Brown, can you imagine what the press would do to him? They are pointing it out.
There'd be heck to pay.
I mean, yeah, right, exactly.
All right, I got to kick you loose. I apologize. It just occurs to me that maybe we need to put on a few more callers. But thank you. I hope we can talk to you next week.
Yeah, I'm a blowhard, so you got to get rid of me. Okay, bye.
Yeah, sorry, I had to hang up on the former mayor. How crude of you, Bobby. I know you're saying, Bob, we love this show. I love the way you're handling this show in real time. Of course you do. What's not to love? Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Now, do I get equal time?
Well, respond.
First,
you have to identify yourself. Don't assume that everybody who's listening now was listening earlier. So identify yourself.
Bob from Bristol. Everybody knows me. Everybody wishes it was my show, except it isn't.
Of course.
Anyway, okay, you're talking about Trump saying things. You don't vote for me, you ain't black. Who said that? Your hero, Joe Biden. How can you people not mention that side of things, but everything Trump says is with a microscope tore apart? Bob, please. This show could be so good, but you ruin it.
Okay, well, you're not going to get an argument from me. As I said before, if you get tired of hearing the host, think about me, because I have to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, but you don't listen to the other side when they say worse things. And, Trump got shot, and that got swept under the rug like nobody. That's cool. I think a lot of people wished he died. That's how sick.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second.
Don't tell me there was things on Twitter I heard saying, oh, damn, they missed.
Well, people can post anything online, and they think they're allowed to do that because of perceived anonymity. So there are a lot of things that people put on Twitter and other social media platforms that they would never say in public.
Cowards. Oh, and about you interviewing Elon Musk, I almost fell out of my truck laughing.
Why? Why would you laugh?
But he'd tell you where to go. Why would Elon Musk want to talk to you?
That's a good point. That's why I was reluctant when the caller brought it up and suggested that I ask him, hey, I'm with you on that. I agree. Why in the world would a guy, such a successful guy, ever stoop so low as to talk with me?
You cut him down a lot, so I don't think you like his success.
I like it. I like many aspects of what he's accomplished and many things he's trying to do, but at the same time, say, for example, Twitter. I don't like the way things have changed on Twitter since he took over. And what I will say about Elon Musk, since he doesn't live in a vacuum, and much of what I've said on the program about, say, the changes at Twitter are things he's heard and read elsewhere, I don't think he would be annoyed by it. In fact, he might offer a vigorous response. He might like the opportunity to respond to me, one of the naysayers about what Twitter is like now compared to the way it used to be. He might actually relish the opportunity to say, Bob, I hear what you said, but here's where you're wrong.
Twitter to me that's not even something. I don't care about that.
And they don't want you. By the way, Bob from Vestal, the last thing they want is you to be tweeting.
I wouldn't tweet. That's weird sounding. Tweet. That's what a bird does, you idiot.
Well, hey, I'm just saying. So you're lucky. You're in good company. Most Americans don't tweet and never have. So you're in good company. Most Americans agree with you.
Bunch of sissies, I think.
Who, Elon Musk? Oh, I got to cut it off there. Not going to. Don't you ever, even though I don't agree with most of the changes implemented by Elon Musk, never take the low road about the people who use the Twitter. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Bob. Good morning. It's DJ in Binghamton. How's everything going?
Just swell.
Well, I was interested in what John from Binghamton had to say, but now I'd like him to call back in, but it's too late, so maybe on Monday. He was talking about the man that wants to make the developments, micro apartments on Charlotte Street, and the last I knew, they wanted $40,000 for each of those lots. And so, to me, that's kind of outrageous that he wants them to give them to him.
So I guess one of the questions that needs to be asked, the city now owns those 4 lots. And you know exactly where they are. I went past them yesterday, so I know exactly what the current condition of those lots is. Does the city of Binghamton think anyone will come along and pay that kind of money for those 4 lots on Charlotte Street?
My answer would be no, but I grew up at 29, and I know exactly who lived there. Chuck Ross, the Rosses.
Well, no need to talk about names. I'm saying, given the current condition of those 4 small parcels and their location, who does the city think is going to come along and buy those properties that are now covered with old tires and an RV, people living there, probably without the mayor's permission? Who does the city think will come along and pay more money than Charlie Ackerman has offered?
Someone who it means something to. That's why I'm asking.
Well, then go make your best offer. Go make an offer, and if you can beat the offer that Charlie Ackerman has just made for his projects, do it. I'm sick and tired of driving by those lots on Charlotte Street and seeing the city's lots in such terrible condition. Sell them. Find someone who will pay cash money, sell the lots, and get something done with those lots. It's an embarrassment to the Parlor City. Hey, that's all the time I have for now. I've enjoyed it immensely. I hope everyone has a great and a safe weekend. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF.